Eberle, and I'm with the Northern Chapter of the Colorado Renewable Energy Society, or NCRES. For those of you who are new to our events, CRES and its local chapters provide education, policy advocacy, and community engagement that accelerate Colorado towards a carbon neutral future powered by 100% renewable energy. Founded in 1996, CRES is a statewide, nonpartisan 501c3 that is supported by our sustaining individual members, our business members, as well as donations and grants. Please visit www.cres-energy.org to learn more, to become a member, sign up for our newsletter, and find our social media links, including the CRES YouTube page, where we have over 100 recorded presentations that have exceeded 1.3 million views. I do want to give special thanks to our Northern Colorado business members, including Solaris Energy, Poudre Valley Rural Electric Association, Sandbox Solar, and of course, Platte River Power Authority. I also want to give a special thanks to Odell Brewing, who donated beverages for our recent 25th anniversary. So before we get started, I have a number of announcements on upcoming events, starting off with tomorrow, Wednesday, October 26th, 6:30 to 8 p.m. will be the Inflation Reduction Act Impacts on Colorado Solar Energy, featuring Mike Kruger, the CEO of the Colorado Solar and Storage Association. That will be a webinar. On this Thursday, October 27th, 7 to 9 p.m., we will feature NCREL's Global Work for Clean Energy with Rob Benioff, who is the Executive Director of the Net Zero World Action Center at NCREL. The center assists numerous countries in transitioning to decarbonized energy systems. This event will both be live in Golden, Colorado, and as well as live streamed. On Wednesday, November 9th, 7 to 9 p.m., we'll have Beneficial Electrification 101, Solar, Thermal, and Clean Heating Technologies. This will feature Laurent Melian, the owner of Capital Solar Energy, who will provide an overview of beneficial electrification, including a review of modern opportunities to get off gas, the pros and cons of clean heating technologies, and recommendations on the best way to combine them to address your needs. That event will also be a webinar. On Thursday, November 17th, 7 to 8:30 p.m., the Energy Industry and the Inflation Reduction Act. So another take on the IRA. This one will be much broader in scope than tomorrow's presentation on solar energy and the IRA. This will feature Matt Caden and Andrew Roush of the tax advisory firm Moss Adams. They will provide a summary of the tax incentives and overall impact of the IRA as it pertains to renewable energy. Additionally, they'll discuss how the bill compares to historical incentives for the oil and gas industry as the country begins to shift to greener sources of energy. So two really good IRA events, one focused on solar here in Colorado, and then a big view in November. To register for these events, go to cres-energy.org, click on the events tab, and you're able to sign up for the meetup or go and sign up for the GoToWebinar links. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and hand it off to Masood Ahmad, the Resource Planning Manager at Platte River Power Authority.
Okay, thanks, Pete, and thank you very much for the opportunity to present our update. This is about 15 to 20 minutes, and then be happy to answer your questions after that. So a little note about ourselves. Platte River Power Authority is a nonprofit wholesale generation and transmission provider to the 4 cities in northern Colorado. We serve Fort Collins, Loveland, Longmont, and Estes Park, and they own us. These cities own us, and they also are part of our their board of directors. In 2021, we had a peak demand of 707 megawatts, and we served about 4.9 million megawatt hours. Excuse me. And 37.6% of that was non-carbon energy. And our owners and communities, they serve about 170,000 customers. Today's talk is really 4 different topics. So we'll quickly go through them and then be happy to answer questions. These topics are related but separate. So first is the resource plan update. And the second topic is the DER strategy implementation. Our board approved the strategy last year, and now we are implementing it. Then we talk a little bit about market update. We are actively pursuing joining real-time market, and we talk about that a little bit. And then at the end will be resource acquisition, what we have done in the last RFP. So with that, let's get into the first topic, resource plan update. So in 2020 IRP that we built in developed fall of 2019 and then presented to the board in just before COVID in February of 2020. And I think I presented to you all as well some findings of the IRP. In that IRP, reliability was not a big consideration, more was economics and directional. So we used average weathers and average profiles, renewable profiles to develop our plans. And we didn't consider beneficial electrification or heating load. It was not very prevalent at that time in the fall of 2019 when we built that. Now, for 2022 IRP, we have, for 2022 resource plan update, we call it RP22, we have considered reliability under extreme weather conditions. One of them we call dark, calms. It's dark, there is no solar, and it's calm, there is no wind. And we had such an event in 2021, Valentine week. There were, unfortunately, there was a serious problems in Texas. We didn't have any problems, but we can tell you we were close to the edge. It was extremely cold, and for 3 days, there was very little or no wind and solar. So we had to rely on our backup fossil generation. We are projecting this type of events into the 2030 and beyond, and when we will have retired our coal plants, and then how would we serve our customers? So the other thing we've done is we look at different wind and solar profiles. We used an average profile in 2020. Now we're looking at the weather data going back to 1980 for the last 40 years, how year by year the weather has changed. Some years were more windy than others. Some years there was more cloudy than others. So we capture all the historical profiles so that we can kind of cover a wide range of future possibilities of renewable production. And we've added beneficial electrification load, which is in winter and could be a very, very more reliability sensitive, because if you lose electricity on a hot summer day, it's inconvenience. But if you lose electricity on a very cold winter day, this is much more serious. So reliability is the key. So with those changes, what we have seen is we need more wind in the next decade when electrification kicks in big time. Through 2030, during this decade, electrification come in, but it's only 1 to 2% of our load, 2-3%. But it kicks up really next decade, and electrification that matches better with wind, because wind is available. Usually the demand is higher, heating demand is higher, and when it's cold and when it's dark, and we have more wind than, of course, there is no solar at night. So that's why we are building more wind. And also because of dark calms, we are seeing we need more backup generation, dispatchable capacity than we had in the IRP. This table kind of shows the comparison of the two plans. So in 2020 IRP, we were building 300 megawatt of solar, the first row, 300 megawatt of solar by 2030, in addition to what we have. And we have roughly 200 megawatt 52 is operating, another 150 is under contract. And by 2040, we were building another 100 megawatt. And the current plan is the same, the solar is the same. Big difference is wind. We were building 200 megawatt of wind by 2040, in addition to 285 megawatts we already have. But now with electrification, beneficial electrification, we have more wind requirements, and it's more than triple of by 2040, as we had said before. We need a little bit less storage, and as we had in the IRP, and now we need more dispatchable capacity. We were thinking we need 100 megawatt, 104 megawatt by 2030, but now we need 166. And that's because of now we are modeling some of the explicitly very, very dark calm events when there is 3 to 5 days of no electricity and no renewable electricity generation. And the installed capacity, we pretty much the same, 1,823 megawatts before and 1,928 megawatts now. Excuse me. You can see, as I said before, our peak demand is about 700 megawatt. So with 1,900 megawatt of installed capacity, out of that, about 500 thermal, the remaining is battery and renewables. We will have a lot of renewable energy available, excess when it's windy and when it's sunny. So we see that the price of energy, when all utilities in Colorado build the renewables, will be more, will have a lot more volatility. Prices will be really high when there is no renewable, and prices will go down when there is a renewable available everywhere. So that's the resource plan, and this chart kind of shows the comparison of the two plans in a different way. Green is the new plan, and blue is the old plan. You can see, starting from the left corner, we were building a very little wind straight line, and now the wind keeps going up as we go through time. Solar is pretty much the same, little bit less storage as we saw, and then more dispatchable capacity. And so this is the same thing you saw in the previous chart, but over time. The other changes in the resource plan, we built everything overnight in 2030, but now that's not practical. We're building these resources before we retire our coal, so we have a year of kind of running these resources before we get into before we retire the rawhide generating facility. I'm moving on to the next topic of DERs, distributed energy resources. So we expect to have about the top line distributed solar, about 90 megawatt of distributed solar by 2030. And that will give about 25 megawatts of peak capacity. So that's when we peak around 5 p.m. in summer, July. So instead of 87, we expect to have at least 25 megawatt available around 5 p.m. 6 p.m. when we peak. Demand response or flexible load, this is also behind the meter. We expect about 30 megawatt to be available by that time. Then electric vehicles, the pace of the adoption is pretty quick, as you all know. We expect about 62 megawatts of capacity contribution from load, not capacity, load coming from EVs. But on the peak, it's only 10 megawatt. And so only, I think 2 to 3%, 2 to 5% people will still need to charge during peak hours. And we peak in summer, July afternoons. It's typically our peak now. And electrification will add about 20 megawatts of load. And that's about, roughly 3% of our load by 2030. But as I said before, this load kicks in significantly in the next decade. So it'll probably reach about 200 megawatts. We will still be a summer peaking utility by 2040, but at some point, if the heating load continues, we probably will become winter peaking. So DERs need a lot of integration, as you all know. We build a solar plant, 100 megawatt of solar in 500 acres, and we get 100 megawatts. To get even 50 megawatt or 20 megawatt from so many residents, you have to integrate them, you have to connect them, you have to control them, and that takes a lot of infrastructure. And then being able to place that those DER resources into the market is a next chapter or next level of complexity, because you need the control, you need the certainty, because there are commercial consequences when you place these resources in the market. There is a lot of consideration in this area. There's a lot of development going on, and we believe in the next, by the end of this decade, this will be a contributor, not a significant, but a vital contributor to our resources. The same, the way we see the roadmap for DER is, you have at the bottom is the grid infrastructure. You have the wires that supply electricity and connect wholesale to the retail customers. Then we need DER infrastructure, which is called DERMS, Distributed Energy DER Management System, DERMS, which is the communications and the data system and control systems that connect each and every household with a central place where the data is collected and also controlled if need to be for these DERs. The next phase is once you have the infrastructure, you start DER programs where you give some incentives or sign up customers to that they will provide. If they give us a control and they provide the resources when we need it, we pay them. So that's having the pilots and monitor and see the certainty of those programs. How many customers let us turn off their AC, and recent history, not turn off, maybe reduce the temperature, increase the temperature on their thermostats. And the recent histories tells us that another utility did this in this summer, and the customers didn't like it. So there is a period of people showing us or us seeing those megawatts available, and then where we take it to the next level, where we can provide those megawatts as a reliable source to the marketplace with the commercial consequences and reliability consequences. So DERs have a vital role to play, but it's a very complex infrastructure and control process that we need to lay down, and we are on to it. We have a DER roadmap that we built. We are implementing this road. We are starting to implement the strategy that we built last year. So the process is underway, but it's a long process. Now I'm moving on to the third topic of the market. So SPP, Southwest Power Pool, is serves a lot of states in the middle of the country. The red is where SPP's full market operates through the center of the country, and light blue is where they are expanding with what they call Western Energy Imbalance Services, or real-time market or hourly market. It's not a full-fledged day-ahead market, but it is certainly a step towards that. So a lot of entities have already started last year. WAPA, Tri-State, Wyoming Municipal Power, and utilities in Nebraska and whatnot, and Basin Electric. Now, Colorado Springs and Colorado started August of 2022, and in the next spring, Platte River, Piesco, and Black Hills are joining. So this is joining the market is a key consideration for us, because it gives us access to a wider area resources where we can place our renewables. When we have access to renewables, we can access a wider market, and the prices are known, and there is a lot of if there is a congestion, it's well known. There are the congestion gets established, so you know where you can import and where you can export power, or in that regard, when you're part of the market, where you can move the power. Then this will be a good first step towards moving towards the full market, which is the day-ahead market also, where you can lock in financially lock in your resources a day before. That is probably a couple of years down the road, but this is giving us a good start. Now, as some of you might know, we already, Platte River, Piesco, and Black Hills, we are already in a what we call JDA, Joint Dispatch Agreement, where we pool our resources, and Piesco dispatches them as just one utility, and we share we sell our access and we share our shortfalls. So we have a head start into moving into the WISE market. Next topic is the resource procurement. As you may remember, we did a resource solicitation towards the end of last year. We asked for 100 to 125 megawatt of solar, and we asked for 100 megawatt hour of storage. That's at the wholesale level. And we also asked for 25 megawatt of distributed solar and also distributed storage. The results, the bids came in, we looked at it. While we were finalizing the bids, one surprising thing were prices were high, which is not surprising anymore at this. Now we are all used to seeing the inflation effect, but in spring there were some interesting prices that we saw. But luckily, with the IRA coming, the prices have come down. We asked all the bidders to kind of go back to the drawing board and consider the benefits of IRA. And so some of them have given us the revised offers, others have kind of in the process. So we are going to be looking at these revised prices and making decisions. In terms of, we received 84 bids for solar from 25 companies and 62 bids for battery storage. So that was very encouraging to know that there's a very deep resource base available in this part of the country, and people are committed to provide renewable energy and long-term contracts to entities like us. So with the IRA, the prices will be even better, are even better, and you all probably know a lot more about IRA than I do, but we will be making the decision probably by Q1 about these. And then the DER is a little bit more challenging in the sense that there are many projects and they are different locations with different entities. So wholesale Platte River signs a PPA, but for DERs we have to work with owner communities, so the logistics are a little bit longer, so they will take probably a little bit longer time. But as you saw in the previous slide where we show the resources, we still need 300 to 600 megawatts of renewable. Even after this, we will need a lot of storage, so definitely there will be more of these RFPs coming in the near future. So to conclude, our board passed the resource diversification policy in 2018 and told us to work proactively towards 100% non-carbon resources by 2030. We are actively working on that, implementing that policy. What we are doing is we are pursuing renewable acquisition. We have, you all probably know the Black Hollow Solar and this RFP, and there will be more. We are joining an organized market. We think it's a critical step towards expanding our reach and also commercially making a more robust decisions by joining the market. We developed a DER strategy last year. Our board approved it, liked it, and we are implementing it. It's a long process, requires a lot of infrastructure and software and hardware, and we are and kind of education. We are at it, and we are confident that the DRs will play a vital role in our resource mix by 2030. And then we are updating our resource plans as market conditions evolve. So we did the 2020 IRP, although we are required to do the IRP only after 5 years, but because of this need to get ready for 2030, we updated the plan after 2 years, and we will be bringing out 2 more IRPs before 2030, and we will update these resource plans every couple of years because the market condition is changing fast, because our requirements are pretty significant. So we want to make sure we plan to the best available technologies, best available prices, and best available options for our customers. So that's kind of the end of it. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, well, thanks, Masood. Let's just jump into these. Okay, first question. What type of technology and fuel is envisioned for the dispatchable capacity?
So we think it's going to be gas, but all the vendors of new dispatchable capacity are saying they will be able to burn some hydrogen, maybe a smaller percentage by 2028, and then move to even 100% over time. So that's what we're considering. And for we will also be looking in the next IRP long duration storage, which is a storage that can be 100 hours or so.
Okay, let's go to the next one here. For DERMS, you talk about it as a central control, but many of the proposals I've seen are for distributed local control where home energy controllers negotiated among themselves within a neighborhood. Is that something that you're considering or able to model?
As a wholesale supplier, I think we will be working with those customers who either individually or aggregated provide resources to us. So if their customers are supplying to each other, that's we will not see that. But if there is an aggregation of customers, and then we see somebody does the legwork that we don't have to do that, they aggregate, they can be controlled, there is certainty, we will take those.
Okay. Have you considered how the IRA would let you own the projects yourself?
Yes, IRA has given this opportunity for public power entities, and we are nonprofit, so we are always trying to look at the best value for our customers. So if it does provide value, it definitely will be considered.
Okay, kind of a follow-on to the DER strategy, and you may have already answered this, but your DER strategy seems to depend on centralized control. What alternatives have you considered?
At this time, we are looking at DERMS, like what kind of DER management system we will be considering. I think we are considering at least the initial thoughts. We haven't finalized. We are working with our 4 entities, and they are very different cultures, different way to approach the customers. So we may have 1 DERM or we may have 4 DERMs. At a Platte River level, we will be looking at where the benefits can be accrued to the local owner community as well as to ourselves. So If the local control means controlling at the ownership, our owner community level, I think that will be part of it.
Okay. Could you describe our current storage systems, e.g. batteries, pump, hydro, etc.? Also, follow on, would it be less costly to invest in additional solar storage than wind in order to meet our peak loads? So 2 questions there. The first one, current PRPA storage assets, and the second one, more solar storage versus wind.
So the only storage asset we have right now is a small 2 megawatt-hour battery. In our IRP, we considered 4-hour battery storage, and that's what was thought to be economical based on the currently available prices and how the prices are expected to evolve within this decade. Now, in 2019, that was the best storage option available to us. Now, in 2022, there are other options seem to be available. There are some tests going on for longer duration storage. There are other technologies emerging for 10-hour, 12-hour, or even one company claims to be 100-hour. But they are in pilot stage mode. We will consider those but in the end, Platte River is a small public power entity. We might do some pilots, but for our installing, for our providing reliable power to the customers, we will be looking at commercially proven technologies. And since our timeline is pretty short, so we have to have the resources available by 2028, and we have to make decisions in the next 2-3 years. So at that time, we will look at what is the most reliable and proven and economical technology for our customers. We will select that. So there was a follow-up, a separate question as well.
Yeah, would it be more economical to add more storage to the solar than build out the wind, overbuild the wind, as it were?
I think the economics will give the answer. And as you saw in our plan, based on our model and based on the results based on the assumptions we made in our plan, in which these are pre-IRA assumptions. So these numbers are done like in the spring of 2022. And the way our load is increasing, the heating load, especially in the next decade, I think wind is more favorable because wind has a higher capacity factor. And the prices that we saw, and you can look at Eberle, which kind of gives us the prices in the high 20s, close to 30. That's per megawatt hour for solar, and wind is pretty close. And if you want to store the solar, you have to invest additional money to store that energy, make it firm. But the wind seems to be available overnight on expected basis and provide the firmness, provide the power when we will need more in the future. So based on our assumptions, as you saw, our model picked less solar, same solar, less storage, and more wind. Now we will update the plan. I think we'll be updating next year, and the impact of IRA will be built into that, and the economics may change.
Okay. Have you researched what Kraftwerk is doing in Europe with virtual power plants? And if so, looking to replicate that success?
Well, there is a lot of talk in the industry about virtual power plants. And we think it requires a level of control and certainty that can be achieved in the next few years once we have the infrastructure ready. So yeah, we showed you, as you saw in our DER, virtual power plant is on our radar. And as we, our DERs gain enough volume and we have enough control, we would definitely be considering that. It's on our radar.
Okay. Will you consider recommissioning the rawhide peaker plants to renewable fuel from agricultural and landfill diversions? Obviously renewable biogas. And would that be cheaper than batteries?
I think we have talked about, in our IRP, the previous IRP, that we will consider as the technologies evolve, because our board gave us the mandate to zero carbon, 100% non-carbon energy. And with the plan currently we get to 95% or so. So we definitely will be looking at other technologies that can get us to 100%, because that's what the board wants us to do, and that's what our customers want. And that's what I mentioned, the new capacity that we will be building based on what we've talked with the vendors of capacity thermal generation. Most of the machines are capable of burning up to 30% out of the gate. And then the vendors are also telling us, because they want to sell the equipment maybe, that at some point they will be up to 100% capable as well into the future. So to the extent a non-carbon fuel or low carbon fuel is available, I think by the virtue of this policy, which directs us proactively work towards carbon, we will consider that when it's available, when it's economical, when it's commercially proven.
Okay. Would PRPA consider leasing large rooftops, such as the Walmart distribution center, or other areas to install PRPA-owned solar? So utility-owned, customer-sided installations.
Yeah, our owner communities might do that. I think at this stage we are considering large utility scale, because Platte River is a wholesale supplier, so that suits, and economies of scale is what we provide. However, our owner communities who are closer to the customer may consider, they are looking at DERs, and this would be a perfect example of a DER. Last time we looked at in our previous solar solicitation, and you can see that from NCRES projection of cost to utility customers of distributed solar versus the wholesale solar. There is a huge economic benefit of having the economies of scale for large scale plants. So we focus on utility scale.
Okay. Here's a good one. Would PRPA be open to considering a demonstration project, a geothermal demonstration product centered on oil field well located, basically using an oil field well with a closed loop geothermal power generation. So geothermal using existing oil and gas development areas.
So, in our renewable, our mandate is 100% non-carbon resources. So we have done solicitation for solar and wind, which are economical and proven resources in the areas we serve. To the extent a geothermal resource is available in the control areas we serve, and there is not long distance transmission to be built, and to the extent there are attractive prices, and there's more reliability, I think we will explore that. We haven't looked at it so far, but if there is a project that bids as part of our solicitation, I think I'm reasonably comfortable saying. We haven't done that, but it will be considered.
Just to add in, if people aren't aware, the Colorado Energy Office and Governor Polis did launch an initiative recently called Heat Beneath Our Feet, looking at both ground source and enhanced geothermal development in Colorado. And they've just named Bryce Carter, who used to run Solar United Neighbors, to help lead that initiative. So I'm sure there'll be demonstration projects and things happening on that front. Next question here. What is driving the winter peaking versus the summer peaking? And then follow on, when does our modeling suggest that summer peaking will begin to happen?
So I think it's related to the load. We are summer peaking now mostly because of the AC load, cooling load. I think 30 years ago or so, I haven't seen the data, but I've been told we used to be winter peaking, and then the AC penetration started, and now we are summer peaking. So now, if we start the electric heating load, based on our very first cut estimates, we could be getting as much as 150 megawatt or so. I can't remember the exact number, 150 megawatt plus by 2040 for winter. But even in 2040, based on our current forecast, we will not be winter peaking. We will still be summer peaking. But if the trend of home heating continues in the next 2 decades, I think I would not be surprised. I may not be here to see that we become winter peaking in the next 20 years, 25 years, due to heating load.
Okay. There are a lot of water projects in various stages of planning, and all we use a lot of pumping. Have you considered the impact of these new loads, and are you looking at them for pumped hydro storage opportunities?
Honestly, I'm not aware of anybody coming to us with the pump hydro proposal. There was one couple of years ago. Somebody came to us. We talked to them, and I think we would be open to that, because pump storage is the best form of electricity storage available today. It's been 95% or 98% of the current electricity storage in the world is from pump storage. With all the press that the batteries get, they're still a small source. To the extent we have a location and we are approached, I think because we are always looking for 3 things for our strategy is 3 legs. So reliability, financial sustainability, and environmental stewardship. So those are the 3. So if there is a pump storage project, I think it's economical, it hits on these pillars, and we will definitely consider those.
Okay. I like this question, little transmission question. Will SPP have the transmission capacity to bring in wind power from the Midwest?
I am not an expert in market, and I don't know a lot of the infrastructure capabilities. But SPP, when we join SPP, the physics of the system will not change overnight. Suppose today our Colorado area has 200 megawatt of transfer capability between Colorado and SPP today. And once we join the market, that limit will not drastically change unless the new transmission lines are built. And once we join the SPP, the economics and reliability requirements may force us to build a little bit faster than we would build otherwise these interregional lines. So the capability could increase once we join, slightly from the existing infrastructure, but will only increase when the new lines are built.
Okay. What percent of renewables are you now?
I think the first slide showed in 2021, we were 37.6% non-carbon energy. That includes hydro, wind, and solar, existing solar. So rough, a little over 1/3.
Just sort of now, when you talked about this, the question is in terms of max storage, battery storage, is 4-day duration the max of what you're seeing right now in terms of what the market is presenting, or was that higher or lower?
I think I have not read longer than 100 hours. I've read about 100 hours storage. And so I'm not aware of any technology that, other than the pump storage hydro, of course, you can pump the water up and then you can keep it as long as you want. The technologies that are being developed, I have not heard of it, longer duration storage.
Okay. Are you considering flow batteries, or have you seen bids from the flow battery developers?
I couldn't disclose what we have seen in the bids, but flow batteries is the technology under development. And once we, look at once we do the solicitation for firm battery storage, if there is an offer and the developer can stand behind it and the economics make sense, I think it'll definitely make the cut. We need about 200 megawatt in the next 3 years, 3-4 years.
Yeah, it seems hard to keep up in the battery stuff. There's a lot of press, and it's hard to see how much of it is marketing placement.
Right.
PRPA told council that rates are going up 40%. Can private deployment of DERs reduce PRPA investment and help reduce the rate hike?
I'm not able to answer that question. If private placement of DERs, if a lot of our customers have solar, which is the biggest DER, that means their demand will be reduced in certain hours of the day, around during the summer especially, but it won't reduce the demand in the later hours of the evening. So we will still have to have a backup, we will still have to have battery, and it won't change much in the winter as well for the heating load that is coming up. It won't help during the dark calms. So it may impact some on what we do, but to the extent it does, it will show up in our load forecast, and we will build less, because currently, as you saw, we are forecasting that we will have 87 megawatts of distributed solar. I think currently we are, don't quote me on this, but probably 20 to 25 megawatt range. So we expect that to continue to increase, and that means that demand that we would have seen otherwise, we will not be seeing it. So it's already baked into our forecast. We only build to the net demand we see. And so if there are more DERs, we, theoretically, it can reduce what we have to build. But reliability still remains our responsibility, and we will definitely meet that.
Okay. Looks like we're at the end of the questions there. I do have a couple questions of my own, but I'm just gonna pick one of them. And this kind of goes back to when you all did the net zero energy or net zero electric study in I think 2018, kind of the beginning of all this, and that led to the 2030 plan. At that time, going to an imbalanced market, then an RTO was considered to be a huge benefit in terms of your ability to get to net zero at the time. And is that RTO baked in terms of like, okay, yeah, we can have a little bit of excess wind. We're going to be able to trade that to SPP when it's not windy in Oklahoma, and when it's calm here, we're going to be able to get, obviously it might be windy in Oklahoma. Is that, and just sort of my question is how is that kind of baked into the modeling, especially with if you're on the new software?
Yeah, it's a little difficult. In our plan in 2020 IRP, we assumed that we are able to transact to a market which has certain depth. And we went to a consultant and they gave us an idea of how the market prices will be over the next many years. And then they told us how deep the market is, and those prices were determined based on the resource mix, wind in Oklahoma or solar in in our neighborhood. I don't think the transmission lines are that. And again, I'm not a transmission expert. I'm not going to say, but it was really neighborhood in our neighbors. So that's what we built in. Now in our next IRP, as we are joining the market, the SPP West wise, we will have a little bit more experience, and we will build that into how we see the market impacting our need to build resources, and to how far we can reach, how it helps us manage our risk on both sides. When we have access, are we dumping at zero cost because we're signing PPAs, we are paying X $20, $30, and then there is a production tax credit. So there is a huge penalty for us not taking the energy. If the prices go negative, we still may have to take those. And then when we are sure there is no wind here, maybe there is a wind or resources other places, we want to import those. So I think what I'm trying to say is we will get the experience and we will improve our modeling of the market. That's what I want to say.
Okay, no, that makes sense. And bringing up the transmission constraint is quite real. In fact, I'm hopefully working on at least one webinar in the future to discuss transmission, both locally and even regionally and nationwide. Okay, one more question popped up. Will PRPA allow the 4 cities to exceed their self-generation cap, which I think is 1%?
This is beyond me. If the board decides, our owner communities sit on the board, so it's not, that's up to them.
Okay. All right, so that's the end of it. Well, I want to thank Masood, you again for joining us, and great presentation, good update, and I'm sure we'll be doing this a lot because so much is changing, and it's great to see you all continuing to move along with it. And I want to thank everyone for joining us. This will eventually be edited and out on our CRES YouTube channel. If you want to grab a recording sooner, feel free to email me, p.eberle@cres-energy.org, and I'll shoot you just the recording link. So everyone, thanks again and have a great evening.